despite the fact that there was life lost, I feel like there's a way for us to find a positive in this, like a silver lining in terms of how do we build moving forward? What does the restaurant industry look like moving forward? Healthcare, public safety, all these different things. But I think once we do move forward past this, we'll put ourselves in a strong position and we think we'll be better than yesterday.
Welcome back to Dirty Linen. This is actually our 50th episode. I'm so excited to reach this milestone. Thank you so much for listening and carrying us along for, must be about 10 weeks. So it's always such a privilege to be in your ears, so thank you so much. And it's actually perfect to celebrate episode 50 with someone that I'm so excited to talk to. His name is Matt Horn. He's a barbecue chef from Oakland, California. And what I really wanted to do for this episode was speak to a Black restaurateur in California about everything. And so a little bit of Googling around brought me to Matt. And he's such an interesting person. He's a pitmaster, a barbecue guy. He's trying to open a restaurant in the middle of a pandemic. I just feel like there's almost too much to talk about when you think about the US and Black food culture and politics and everything that's going on right now. So, Matt, thank you so much for diving in with me today.
Oh, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity. I'm truly honored to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I feel like I just want to ask you, first of all, how are you going? Like, what is a day like for you at the moment?
Oh, man. A typical day right now, as you know, we're opening up the restaurant. A project that was supposed to take us 2 to 3 months ended up being over a year. And, we're opening in the middle of a pandemic. So literally my days is just every second of the day trying to remain optimistic and to be hopeful towards what we're pushing towards and what we're looking to open. It's a bunch of running around, dealing with contractors. Usually my day starts where I'm making waffles and stuff for my 2 little kids that are at the house. They're tired of being locked in the house, but we have to do what we have to do, right?
Yeah. And the other thing when I think about California right now is that there's fires, like crazy fires everywhere. Like how's that impacting you?
You know what? It's tough. I mean, it's already a challenge when you look at, a lot of people were sheltered in place, but there's been a lot of people, unfortunately, have had to evacuate out of their homes, due to all these fires that are all over. And, and then once the wind starts to pick up, it starts to spread. So, we're sending a lot of love out to the firefighters and those first responders that are out there, fighting this thing head on. But, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, we went through a good amount of time where it's just the air quality was just so bad you couldn't even just go in your backyard and hang out,
Mm.
But we're getting past it, so it's positive,
Yeah. It's such a crush of stuff this year, right?
Oh my gosh, it just seems like it just never stops.
Yeah. Let's track back a little bit and talk about how you come to be in Oakland in the first place. And just tell people here a little bit about Oakland and that part of the Bay Area.
Absolutely. So we started humbly at a farmer's market in the valley near the Bay Area, and that's where I kind of got my start, where that's where we were able to put our product out there and just really see how people would respond to it. And we decided on Oakland for a few different reasons. One, the cultural context of Oakland and, it being literally the last stop of the Great Black Migration and just the history there. I think it was really important where Bay Area and Oakland is where we really got our start. The people, the love, they were really receptive of what we were doing. And, we could have went anywhere. I mean, originally I came from Southern California. That's where I was living during the time. And, actually going up to the Bay Area was an adjustment for me. But, it made sense. I mean, the people welcomed us, with love and kindness. And it was just, it was just a natural fit for us.
Mm. And tell us about your style of barbecue.
Yeah, so I grew up on Southern barbecue, which was really pork driven. But when I started my journey with Horn Barbecue, one of the styles that really resonated with me was the Texas style of cooking, which was beef driven, and use meats that were cooked on an offset smoker using some sort of hardwood, whether it be almond or oak or hickory or that sort of thing. So I fell in love with that particular style, and that's the route I've been going. So I still do things around the whole hog and that sort of thing, but the brisket is the thing, the cut of meat that really built the house.
I've seen photos of your brisket, and I know that I can't really taste it like 15 hours flight away from you, but it just looks so
Right.
delicious, like so juicy, so much flavor. Like
Oh,
I
thank you
feel
so
like I can
much.
almost smell the smoke. It's just looks
Yeah, right.
insane. Um, what do you what is it? What's this? I mean, you don't have to tell us all your secrets, but what makes it so delicious?
You know what? With barbecue or just any cut of meat that you cook, I think that one of the main ingredients is love and the attention to detail that you put into the product. Um, when I think of barbecue, I always say this all the time. I like to look at a platter as an empty canvas, like a blank canvas, and the meats that we're cooking, that's our art and that's my artwork, and that's how I find myself consumed in barbecue. But the real secret to it is patience and love and that care and attention to detail. Because earlier on, I used to really just cook everything directly over fire, and I tried to rush everything. But something I've learned in this journey was when cooking barbecue, that patience that it takes, that allows you find yourself in this ethos of love and comfort. And I feel like these are all the elements that go into really making really great barbecue.
Growing up in Australia, I mean, American style barbecue wasn't really very well known at all. And I guess we were, experts in the burnt sausage and, a grilled prawn or whatever. But it's definitely become more popular in the last decade or so. But I think,
That's awesome.
yeah, look, it is awesome. But I feel like we're still pretty ignorant. And one thing that I reckon is really little known is the whole culture around the black pitmasters and the black barbecue cooking of the American South. So can you just clue us in a bit with that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, throughout history, when you look at where barbecue has come from, I mean, even like particularly with my family, all of my family, they come from the South. And so as I was growing up, I was taught these different food ways. I was taught these different techniques. When our family got together, that was the way, that was the thing that brought us together was barbecue. So you look at it from a historical context where earlier on, slaves would take cuts of meat that really weren't favorable and they would cook those meats over a long period of time to create something amazing. And I feel like that influence, of course, has spread throughout America. And as you've seen now, barbecue is, it went from earlier on when you have like older generations that would just do it just to make money, and that was their way of surviving, or that was that was the only thing that they knew. Now you see in America where it's kind of like the cool thing to do with barbecue. And I'm noticing that where you see a lot of people a lot more where it just, I mean, from my perspective, it feels like barbecue joints are opening up every day. There's always someone that's looking to get into that whole kind of craft barbecue scene, and I enjoy it, but I don't want to forget the historical context of the Southern influence on barbecue in the country.
Mm, yeah. Is there someone in your family that you really stood beside and, really learnt from?
Well, you know what? As a kid, my outlook on life was just living in the moment, having a great time, and you really weren't really paying attention. And when you used to see your grandfather standing by this smoker cooking meats, and you see the sweaty face, and you see the the ash on his clothes and that sort of stuff. And I look back at it now, and it makes me appreciate, my grandmother. They said she used to go out and butcher hogs and cook hogs in the ground, and my father, you know, cooking us chicken and grilling ribs, and it was a part of our upbringing. It was a part of my culture and also my foundation. So naturally, when I found this way of life and I started to go down that journey, it was a natural transition for me.
Mm, yeah. So it's just I want to talk about Black Lives Matter and all the unrest that there's been in the US. And of course, there's been a new upsurge in that with another police shooting
Yeah,
of an
yeah,
unarmed black man. And it's, it's, I mean, I'm getting tears to my eyes as I even say those words.
yeah, yeah.
Um, tell me about that and how that is for you.
You know what? I mean, we're all in this world and we're all living and we're trying to figure this out. We have family and we're trying to create memories and hopefully the majority of us are just, ultimately just wanting to live great lives. But when you walk outside your door and you're 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 considered a threat because of the color of your skin, what it does to you subconsciously and from a generational standpoint, it puts you in a position where you constantly live in fear. And I don't think that that's fair, but this is the country that we live in. And it's tough that to be in such a beautiful country, but to have um, such a difficult past, especially pertaining to African Americans, to Black people. Um, it's challenging for me at times because it makes me now question, now that I have children, when I look at my young son and I see him smiling and he's just enjoying cartoons and toys and ice cream and all the great things that you see kids enjoy. What it makes me question and what it makes me wonder is, at what point does my child become um, a threat to someone else? And I think that's the thing that's been a challenge for me. But through barbecue and through cooking and being a chef, and it allows me to not focus on that every day. But what it does is like, how am I using my craft? How am I using my platform? How am I using my influence to love those that don't look like me, but then also those that look like me? You know what I mean? Like during this challenging time. And when I recently saw that video of, of that brother being, shot in the back by the police, it broke my heart. And whether it would have been a white man or a Mexican man or Asian man or anyone else, I think the thing that hurt me the most is that could have been me. And the second thing is the fact that his children had to see their father shot in the back like an animal. And that's the thing. It just kind of chokes me up a little bit. But you know, this shouldn't be the way that life is. And even though that our country has been dealing with this for hundreds of years, um, I feel like now is the time for it to change. And for that to happen, I mean, people need to use their voice, and there needs to be a plan on how we get past this. Because the fact that we're talking about racial injustice and police brutality in 2020, it's just truly unfortunate. I remember my grandparents telling me stories, and their stories was a lot different. Versus, instead of the police dealing with that, they were dealing with the Klan, or they were dealing with people swinging from trees and that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So for us to be in 2020 to still be dealing with it, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I it's I've spent a bit of time in the US and traveled around a bit, and I think one thing that always would strike me is that it's such a place of hope, but there is also such deep division. And I feel like what you're saying, as a business owner and what you're doing with the barbecue, it's like it's both an outreach project, but you're also setting an example of, of success and making your way and not being ground down. And I suppose just trying to, yeah, find that hope and try to smooth over some of that division.
Absolutely. And I think that's the real big thing where, I don't wake up every day and I'm like, okay, am I a threat to somebody or that sort of thing? What I try to do is that when I wake up and I go out in the world, whether it be with Horn Barbecue or any other concepts, and what I'm building, we show love to people. And I think that with Horn Barbecue, the reason why we've been able to build such a strong following the way we have is that people feel that, not only from me and my wife, but people feel that love, and it's expressed through our food, through the craft. It's translated through the food that we put on the plate for the people. And I think that's one of the things that is important, not just for me, but for other chefs and just people in general.
Yeah. It's like that showing that love is almost like some kind of victory.
Exactly. That's wonderful. Absolutely a victory.
Yeah. It's I think one of the terrible things about racism is that it's such a distraction for people. Like you say, it's like your kid's there just, wanting to eat ice cream and just have his life and soak up all the things that he can learn. And then to have this I guess one of the major oppressions of racism is that it turns people away from all the other great things that they could be doing, like to live your life sort of defensively. Yeah, it's like this terrible other layer to oppression.
Absolutely. And it distracts us from just being exactly, who we are and what we were intended to do in this life. When we, versus being intentional with hate and that sort of thing. It's like we rid ourselves of that. And I know it's easy to say for us to all love each other and that sort of thing, but I think the way for us to get there is through action and holding ourselves accountable, holding our counterparts accountable. You see a lot of the stuff going on with police right now, with the whole racial injustice and, cops not being held accountable. I think the real big thing about it is there's a lot of really great cops, really beautiful people that are actually out to do the job, and we need them to police and protect our communities. But when it becomes a public servant taking the life of an individual or racially profiling an individual because of the color of their skin, how do we move past that? We do that by other cops holding, their fellow counterparts accountable.
Yeah. I guess everyone's got a forum in which to hold other people accountable or to call things out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you faced particular barriers or racism as you've gone through your journey of being a business owner?
You know what? I've actually just recently fed a bunch of police officers within my area, and while we were doing I created our Horn Initiative, which was pretty much our expression of love and giving back through to the community during this time of crisis. And there was officers that would stop by and they're like, hey, what do you guys have going on? I'm like, we're feeding our community. And I asked them, I said, are you hungry? And they were like, well, no, that's not for us. I'm sure there's other people that need it more than we do. And I said, you know what? We all can use a little bit of love. And I said, and the fact that you are a part of our community, this is for you as well. So you're welcome to eat. And it's kind of like having someone sit down, at your table in your home and, bringing them into your home and showing them that love. But that's what we did. And they appreciated it. And it was awesome to see. But earlier on in my life, I've dealt with, encounters of racism from police officers, that sort of thing. I've never been locked up. I don't have a criminal record or anything like that, but I have had a gun pointed at me by an officer,
Jesus.
and it,
Oh,
it was a very scary moment. And I teared up, and it was traumatizing. But I'm not the only one that's dealt with that. It's a lot of people that look like me that have dealt with similar circumstances, but there's also people like me that have dealt with a lot worse. I mean, if you look at George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, it's just you see these individuals that, you know, they kind of got the short end of the stick. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't carry that with me, But what I do is I raise my children up in a way to love all people, because that's how my mother and father raised me and my siblings. So we didn't look at people for color. We looked at the content of their character.
I mean, it's such a big-hearted way to live, but it's yeah, it must be challenging at times
Yeah, it is.
to keep that wholehearted openness and to look past.
What's going on?
Yeah, that's it. And you guys have got a pretty important election coming up.
Yeah, we do.
Um, how are you feeling about that?
I feel like earlier on in my life, I would always say like positive, politics wasn't something I was really interested in and that sort of thing. And it's just like I find myself more and more paying attention to it and pretty much just seeing like, you know, which way is this going to go? What's going to be best for, for the country as a whole? And I think for our country, for us to have strong leadership, I think that's the most important thing. And to be able to have a leader that will not divide our country, but to bring people together, not build walls, but bridge gaps. And I think that's the most important thing. It's just like when you have someone or anybody or any group or organization that's pushing hate and pushing terror and that sort of thing, and you're further dividing a country. I mean, think about the generations that come after us, the impact of that, not just in our country, but in our world. And I get that we'll never be in a place that's completely perfect. But I understand that during the election it's very essential and extremely important for people to get out and vote, because we need the right type of leadership in the country. And if that, depending on whatever party that may come from, I feel like we need to have strong leadership and to not divide and further push people apart, but to bring people together.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We in Australia we have compulsory voting, so this whole idea of trying to get people to vote isn't something that's part of our conversation. It's just about who do you vote for, not about that you vote. But I know that that's a massive conversation in the US, and particularly this year in the context of a pandemic, where it's like, please vote, but then how do you vote? And the whole conversation around the postal votes, and it just
Oh yeah.
yeah, it just seems so complicated. And I know that it's elections have been affected by particularly Black communities finding it difficult to vote, and that feels like I fear that that's going to be an issue this year as well. Is that something that is talked about a lot around the Bay Area?
Well, you know what? Even in my hometown, I've talked with people, and I mean, a lot of people really rely on voting by mail, and it's just like with everything going on with the postal service, that's going to be another challenge. But I wish it was like how it is, where you are, where people just like, okay, who are we going to vote for? Versus like you have to kind of get people to go out and vote, and there's a lot of people that don't vote, but just understanding that their vote matters. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like you have to continue to sell the whole idea of democracy every time there's an election.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it sort of speaks to how much is going on in the US right now that we've barely even talked about the global pandemic that has been particularly devastating for the US. What are things like there with COVID right now?
You know what? It's just, I want to say, 12 months prior, it was everybody's out and about, bars are full, people are in public outings, everything is perfectly fine. It's like now we find ourselves in a world where, you know, everyone's in masks, everyone's on edge, everyone is kind of confined to their homes. And, you feel that with a lot of the attitude or a lot of, just the mentality that you see with people now. And we're just like in a different time, and people are learning to adjust. But then you have a very large group of people that's having a hard time to adjust to this new way of living. But this is what we have to do if we want to curve this thing. I think for the safety of our people and the safety of our country, is something necessary. So however long that takes for us to get out from under this, There's other countries that have been able to do it uh, successfully, but I just feel like if we all just continue to collectively work together to kind of curve this virus, we'll come out of it. And I think it's not going to go back to being the same. I truly believe that this is an opportunity for us to build something different, even pertaining to the restaurant industry. And I think this pandemic, um, despite the fact that there was life lost, I feel like there's a way for us to find a positive in this, like a silver lining in terms of how do we build moving forward? What does the restaurant industry look like moving forward? Um, Healthcare, public safety, all these different things. But um, I think once we do move forward past this, um, we'll put ourselves in a strong position and think we'll be better than yesterday.
I love that positivity. Tell me what you think it might do for the restaurant industry. Are you talking about wages, or what are you thinking?
Well, I think in terms of just the whole, the way we look at what restaurants are, I mean, just the whole dining thing. I mean, right now, it seems like the trend is going towards, the outdoor dining. There's a lot of places, especially here in California, where, indoor dining is not allowed. I know at one point it was restricted. I think 20% of your restaurant's capacity, but I think moving forward, it's going to make people rethink the way that restaurants are operated. And I think with barbecue, I think it'll be easy for barbecue because barbecue is just one of those things that it's always been enjoyed in a backyard or amongst family or outdoors and that sort of thing. So I think it'll be a natural transition for us because I know with our concepts, we have that in mind. With Horn Hospitality Group, we're literally focusing more on okay, what direction do we go with the concepts that we're going to roll out? And, that whole, I mean, we're not going to be able to pack out our restaurant on the inside anymore until we get, until we're able to do that again. We need to focus on a solution, and that solution is outdoor dining.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I feel so sad about with, I mean, we're in lockdown in Melbourne where I am at the moment. There's no restaurants open. They're just allowed to do takeaway. And one of the things I miss so much is that, yeah, it sucks. We're getting there though. I miss that communal experience, that experience of gathering together with people that you know and people that you don't know, and that you're part of something beautiful and human that's been created around food. But I feel like, yeah, as you say, barbecue is like you can't do barbecue for one, right? Like barbecue is by its very nature, yeah, it's collective by its very nature. So I think it is such a natural, and it is outdoors. So it's such a natural way for people to gather. I love that. It's like you're well placed to create the revolution.
Right? No, exactly. And I just feel like that ability to congregate is one of the elements of what makes barbecue what it is. A really great friend of mine named Wayne Mueller, he always says that barbecue is the great unifier, and I believe that. I mean, if you look at the influence that barbecue has had and it's spreading throughout the country and the world, it's a beautiful thing. But to be able to bring people together um, and create this ethos of love, I think that's what makes barbecue so great. And to be the ability to do that outdoors, I mean, it makes sense.
Mm. And I think also it's a really great anti-racist project because you can look back at the history of the black pitmasters and look at how that those beautiful flavors and that culture has spread and it's traveled around the world, and it's, yeah, like w- what isn't to love about that? It's just such a rich story, and yeah, like to be able to connect with that history is a privilege, and yeah, you're part of that.
Absolutely, it is. And I am, and every day, I never take it for granted. I mean, the position that I'm in, within barbecue, I have a responsibility to not just focus on myself, but to be selfless in the art and craft of barbecue, but to not look towards not look at today, but then look towards tomorrow in terms of future generations and the impact that I'm having with barbecue, and how do I impact them with Horn Barbecue in the country or across the, in the world. I mean, our plans are to go to different countries and do different things and to kind of spread the gospel of, this holy smoke of barbecue. But I mean, that's the thing that I look at is how am I impacting people with what we're doing,
You got to come to Australia then, right? We need it.
You know what? I want to come to Australia. I really do.
Great.
I think we're gonna make that happen. When we do, I'm gonna reach out.
You are, yes. We're talking for a reason, for a number of reasons, but that's got to be one of them.
Absolutely.
Matt, it has been such an enormous privilege and joy to speak to you. There's so much going on for you, for the world, but there's so much going on for the US. It just feels like such a crush of issues and topics, but also there's a positive path forward and you're treading it. And I really thank you for sharing your stories and your wisdom with us today.
You know what? I'm completely honored and I'm really grateful for you to have given me the opportunity to come on the show. And you guys are doing some amazing things. Anytime you need anything from us, anytime I could be of assistance, you just reach out. I'm here. And thank you again.
Thanks so much, Matt. This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.